Now, it's World Emoji Day on Sunday. Yes, there is such a thing. And Emojipedia, which monitors the use of emojis worldwide, has released its suggestions for new designs. They include a pink heart, a shaking face, and pushing hands. While the images could change slightly, the concepts are expected to be approved. It comes as Emojipedia says the use of emojis has never been higher. Well, let's talk to Keith Broni, who's editor-in-chief of Emojipedia. Welcome to the programme. So we're hearing that the use of these emojis has never been higher. Why are they so popular? Why do people use them when you might say that actually a word would do just as well?
But this is the thing, an emoji can encapsulate so many words at once, in the same way that a certain turn of phrase with a certain vocal tone or a certain gesture can do so, even a facial expression. Emojis are allowing us to add cues into all of our digital communications, and they become an incredibly important communicative tool.
So we're getting a load more. Why do we need more? How many do we need? What's the point of having, let's say, different colour hearts, these pushing hands, a shaking head? Why do we need these?
So in the case of the shaking face, this is an emoji that could be used to encapsulate either being metaphorically shook, which is a very, very common slang term these days when you're responding to something that's kind of shocked you a little, but it's also got the potential to be used as an emoji to encapsulate an earthquake, because an earthquake is a very difficult concept to convey with, say, a building. Is it shaking? What kind of building should be used if we're thinking about these things globally? And in terms of hearts, well, if you actually look at a color wheel, the emoji hearts that existed up until that point were actually missing a couple of kind of core segments of a color wheel. And what we find with hearts is people combine them in different orders to create references to things like sports teams or identity-oriented flags. These are the things that people use the hearts for. And in fact, that pink heart that's on the draft list right now, the response to that so far has been absolutely huge.
So I have to say my immediate reaction.
Oh, absolutely not. If you look at the actual demographics of who is using emoji, it's entirely cross-generational. This is not just a bit of frivolity for the young. People of all ages use emojis to improve their digital communications across the board. Now, you do see different interpretations of certain emojis in different generational groups, but that is actually less to do with the age of people and more about what platforms people are communicating on. So you see people, say, on TikTok starting to use emojis in different ways. They start repurposing them to emulate the slang terms that they're using. And this is like no different than how slang has always worked, how different kind of meanings have always been created between generations.
So you say they are open to interpretation by different groups. Have they been used unexpectedly in any ways that you weren't foreseeing?
There is a lot of documented instances of emoji repurposing that maybe would be unexpected. So one of those intergenerational divides that we're seeing right now is the skull face is actually used these days to encapsulate laughter, because it's emulating the slang phrase, "I'm done laughing" or "I'm dead." And to many of us that maybe aren't aware of that, that looks pretty stark. Why is this funny meme I'm sharing being responded to with a skull? There's also classic examples, even that predate the emoji keyboard, when it comes to different hand gestures being used across different nations. Different hand gestures can be interpreted differently in different contexts and in different cultures. And you have to be careful when you're using tools like emojis in a global context, that you're not using a hand gesture with one cultural context that is completely and utterly different than another. So these are things that have kind of entered into the emoji keyboard from, you know, the way we've interpreted symbols going back decades, centuries even.
And I wonder if there's any emoji that you think is missing. Somebody on our team said they really wanted to have a white wine emoji, and there isn't one. What's missing for you?
The white wine emoji is one that has been demanded for very many years, and there's an interesting reason as to why it hasn't been created just yet. But I will say one thing that's also been asked for quite a lot over the years is the ability to mix and match our different skin tone modifiers with the different people within the family emojis. Now, this again has a technical complexity to it, but I'd certainly like to see people be able to represent their families before I think we need the white wine emoji for sure.
Okay, Keith Broni, Editor-in-Chief of Emojipedia, thanks very much indeed for talking to us today.
My pleasure.